Hello and welcome back to Basic Course in Maithili. We are in week 6.5. So, this is the fifth lesson of week 6, and in this lesson we are going to talk about objective pronouns in Maithili and learn about how we use objective pronouns in Maithili. So, what do we have in this lesson? First, we have to discuss about what objective pronouns are. Then we are going to discuss about how Maithili marks objects in sentences. Then we are also going to talk about how honorificity is represented and reflected in objective pronouns. Then we are also going to talk about how objective pronouns work when it comes in sentences. So, let us begin with what objective pronouns are. We have already seen the nominative pronouns and possessive pronouns. So, objective pronouns are basically the pronouns that occur in the object position of a sentence. So, when you saw the nominative sentences were coming in the subject position, but objective pronouns are coming in the object positions in the sentence. So, they receive the action of the verb rather than performing it and are said to possess accusative or objective case. So, objective pronouns are also called accusative case. We will also use another term who is supposed to be like the experiencer of a sentence or the action. So, when you say in English, he gives a book to me, here the word me is the object, and this is an object of the verb give. So, here the subject is he and there are two objects in it. One is a book which is being talked about, and there is another one who is a receiver, and that is me. So, me becomes the object and me is the accusative and or objective case form of the verb of the pronoun I. So, what are the nouns and pronouns? So, in English, when you say he gives a book to me or he gives a book to Mohan, both me and Mohan function as the objects. So, here the pronoun in the first sentence, the pronoun is the object, and in the second sentence Mohan is the object. Similarly, in Maithili, when you say ओ हमारा एकटा किताब देता, which also means the same thing, he gives a book to me. In this sentence, O is the subject which is he, and hamara is the object or the accusative object which is hamara, that is me. And ekta kitab is another direct object which is not accusative, that is a direct object. That is also an object, but this is a second. In ditransitive verbs, you have two objects. So, another sentence would be O Mohan ka ekta kitab deta. He will give a book to Mohan. So, here in the second sentence, Mohan ka becomes the object. Here you notice that Mohan is the object and there is another object marker ka added to it. This shows that pronouns and nouns have similar distributions. However, as we will see, pronouns forms vary with person, honorificity and distance. So, what are the basic forms? Let us look at the first person and second person basic forms of the pronoun. So, in nominative, you have hum. In objective position, you have hamara, and the same thing in English would mean me. So, in this table, you see that in the first row, we are giving the nominative forms of the Maithili pronouns, and in the second column, you have the objective form of the same pronoun, and English has the meaning of the same thing. So, hum becomes hamara in objective position, tum, that is you, becomes tora in objective position. Ta, which is middle honorific, it also becomes tora, and aha, which is the honorific form, gets the accusative case marker ka added to it. So, it becomes aha ka, that means to you, and high honorific apne would become apne ka. So, that would become another accusative marker using the accusative case marker word ka. As in English, we find no distinction between proximate and remote forms for first and second person objective forms in Maithili. Let us look at the third person forms of the objective pronouns. So, here in the first column you see the nominative forms of the third person pronouns. So, e, which is this, then again another e, which becomes again honorific. It means basically the same, but in honorific it becomes different. So, e, e and o both are the same singular third person pronouns, but when it comes to objective position, see that there is a difference in honorificity. So, when you are saying in a non-honorific form, then e will become ekara. If you are giving honorificity to it, then you will say hinika, and if something is afar, very far from here, from the place where the speaker is speaking, then it will become okara for non-honorific, and it will become hunka for honorific. So, as we see that objective forms in Maithili vary not only with honorificity, but with distance as well. Let us look at some examples. So, here you have an example, Hum tora upahar debo, which would mean in Hindi, मैं तुम्हें उपहार दूंगा, and the same thing in English would mean I will give you a gift. Another sentence, O हमरा फल देलखिन, which would mean in Hindi, उन्होंने मुझे फल दिया, and the same thing in English would mean he or she gave me fruit. Let us look at another sentence, another example. So, when you say हम उनका चिट्ठी भेजलाऊं, which would mean in Hindi, मैंने उन्हें चिट्ठी भेजी, and the same thing in English would mean I sent him or I sent her a letter. So, we have same form but different meaning. That is something interesting we need to look at. So, look at this sentence, हमरा घर पर गाड़ी छै. This sentence means there is a vehicle at my house, and अहाँ हमरा गाड़ी दिया, which means you give me a vehicle. Now, in both of these sentences you see the word हमरा has been used, which is the objective case pronoun. Now, the form हमरा looks the same in both the sentences, but its function changes. In the first sentence, which is हमरा घर पर गाड़ी छै, it indicates possession or location, which is at my place, while in the second it marks the recipient. So, diya, give me. Thus, the meaning depends on the verb and overall sentence context. There is another thing that we need to look at here. So, in many cases, हमरा expresses experience, not position. So, let us look at this example. हमरा बोखार लागल अछि. I have fever, or if you literally translate it, then it becomes something like fever has affected me. Now, see here, to have fever is not something like receiving something, it is like basically experiencing something, and that is why it is called as experiencer. So, we say हमरा बुखार लागल अछि, or for example हमरा नीक लगैया, which means I like it or it feels good to me. Or let us say when I say हमरा पैसा अछि, that means I have money. So, in these sentences हमरा does not show ownership, but marks the person who experiences a state or feeling. The focus is on what is happening to the speaker, that is having fever, liking or having something, rather than something they actively possess. This is why such constructions are called experiencer or dative constructions. So, what does it mean? The dative and experiencer meaning. Let us say for example, when you say हमरा लगैया ई नीक अछि, I feel this is good. Or when we say हमरा मदद कऽ दिअ, help me. हमरा गाछ पर चढ़ा दिअ, make or help me climb the tree. Here हमरा can function as experiencer, indirect object or object, and then also the beneficiary. So, हमरा लगैया ई नीक अछि. Now, in this one the word हमरा is experiencer. So, he is feeling that it is good. And then in the second one हमरा मदद कऽ दिअ, help me. So, he is asking for help, that means he is receiving something. So, he is an indirect object or object. And then हमरा गाछ पर चढ़ा दिया. So, now here he is getting the beneficiary or the receiver of the cause. So, he is asking for help in climbing the tree. Let us look at some more examples. So, here तोरा घर पर गाड़ी छ. तोरा घर पर गाड़ी छ would mean you have a vehicle at your house. Now, here Tora is non-honorific or we can say middle honorific. Similarly, हम तोरा गाड़ी देब, I will give you a vehicle. अहाँ के घर पर गाड़ी अछि, you have a vehicle at your house. हम अहाँ के गाड़ी देब, I will give you a vehicle. Now, the first one is a dative or possessive case marking. So, Tora is being used in the sense of dative or experiencer. In the second sentence, this one, हम तोरा गाड़ी देब, it is an objective recipient. Then, in the third one, अहाँ के घर पर गाड़ी अछि, you have a vehicle, it is again a dative or possessive marker. And in the last one, हम अहाँ के गाड़ी देब, it is the recipient. अहाँ के, you is the recipient of it. So, as we can see, the same form can be used with both dative experiencer and objective case. In Maithili, the verb agrees with the subject as observed in the following example. So, let us say for example, here we say तो हमरा दैत छै, you give me. अहाँ हमरा दैत छी, you give me. ओ हमरा दैत अछि, he or she gives me. Now, see here, the auxiliary verb छै, chi and achi are different depending because the subject has changed. So, the first one, it is non-honorific ton, you, and in the second one, aha, which is honorific, and that is why the verb is getting to be chi. If you change it with cha, aha hamra deit cha, that is a wrong sentence. Or in the last one, o hamra deit achi, this is correct, but if you cannot say o hamra deit chi, that is would be a wrong sentence. So, the copula means cha, chi, achi, the forms of verb to be. So, the copula or the existential verb form agrees with the subject as indicated and not with the object of a sentence. The object hamra remains the same. So, see in this sentence the object is me, even in Maithili it is hamra and this does not change. So, let us look at some other sentences where objects change. So, when we say Ham tora deit chiok, I give you. Ham ekra deit chi. Ekra is nh. Nh would mean non-honorific and proximate, that is nearby. Ham hunka, honorific and remote. Ham hunka deit chiani. I give him or her. So, in Maithili, verbs primarily agree with the subject, but some objects can also influence the verb through multiple agreement. This happens mainly with second person objects and third person honorific objects, which trigger special verb forms like chiauk and chiani. However, first person and third person non-honorific objects like ekra do not trigger agreement. So, object agreement exists, but it is restricted and not general. Let us look at how we emphasize the objective pronouns. Emphasis, as you have seen earlier, that it is a special thing and we need to get to learn about it whenever the time permits. So, when you say hamro deit chi, giving me as well, or are you giving me as well? Toro detau, will he or she give you too? Or toro detau, that means he will give it to you too. Ekro deit chi, are you giving him or her as well? As we see above and earlier, the inclusive emphatic suffix o adds the meaning also or to. So, hamra becomes hamro, tora becomes toro and ekra becomes okro to make an emphatic objective pronoun. So, there are some special cases that we should look at. So, in this sentence, हम अपने का सेहो दैत छी. I am giving you to. अपने का सेहो किताब देब. I will give you a book as well. For high honorific, the suffix o is not used. Instead, the separate word seho is used for emphasis, as you have seen in earlier also. So, because you cannot say apneo, you have to add ka to it. So, you can to say apne ka seho, apne ka seho deit chi, apne ka seho kitab deb. You cannot say apneo kitab deb. Now, let us look at the case marker ka. So, in this sentence, हम मोहन का देखा लिए. I saw Mohan. Or in the next sentence, हम मोहन का किताब दे लिए. I gave a book to Mohan. In this sentence, you see the marker ka is used. So, the marker ka in Maithili is a general accusative dative case marker used with nouns. It marks different semantic roles depending upon the verb and the context. With accent verbs like see or meet, it marks the object, the entity that is affected by the action. With the verbs like give, it marks the recipient, the one who receives something. And in experiential constructions, where the verb is something like to have fever or feel, it marks the experiencer, that is the person undergoing a state or feeling rather than performing an action. Now, should we use can or not? Even in English you have seen that whether we use to or not. So, let us look at some examples. Hom aam khayab, I will eat mango. That is a simple sentence with no can mark given. So, here aam is an object, but there is no can marker added. But look at the next sentence. Hom ahi aam ke khayab, I will eat this mango itself. That means here something has been specified. So, when you are going to specify it particularly, even though the verb is kha, which does not require the overt mark of can, the can has been used because the emphatic marker ahi has been used here. You cannot say hum ahi aam khayab, that would be a wrong sentence. You need to say hum ahi aam ka khayab. So, here can does not only assign case, it can be also used as a definite marker as well. So, without can, the object is understood in a general or non-specific sense. With can, the object becomes definite, referring to a particular or identifiable entity. We will study more about this when we discuss prepositions or postpositions later on. So, let us summarize this lesson. So, in this table now you are going to see the nominative forms of the pronoun in the first column, the objective forms of the same pronouns in the second column, emphatic forms of the same pronouns in the third column, and you can see whether honoripicity has been marked on it or not, and then the English meaning and the Hindi meaning. So, you can practice it, also look at your handouts that I have been shared with you, and let us close this. So, we come to the end of this lesson 6.5. In the next lesson, we will take up a conversation focused on planning a family event and learn more about the pronouns and other simple sentences as we go. Thank you.